Welcome to the Breakdown with Taylor Brown, the show where we talk about global journeys and inspiring stories. On today's show, we're talking with Chris Campagna. Chris Campagna is the founder of the Loop Coworking and a great friend of mine. We've known each other for a couple of years.
Yeah, we did. So we were going over the timeline on the friendship, and I said, "So where you remember where we met?"
Yeah, we met at 12 Stories in DC.
Yeah, down at the wharf.
Yep.
Going into a Lululemon event.
Yep. And we were on the elevator, and we didn't speak at first. And then we ended up being partners.
Well, so we ended up being partners in the workout. There was that awkward elevator silence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awkward elevator silence. Then we ended up partnering in the workout, and when I found out you were an athlete and training, I was just opening up that gym. So I was like, "Hey, come on over, check it out, work out anytime you want."
Mm-hmm.
Thinking, well, I don't know. You might come, might not. We'll see. And you did.
Yeah. No, the gym was like, I'm really grateful we connected it because I was trying to get back overseas.
Right.
And
Right.
I really needed a gym, so that was clutch.
And that also led to some other relationships and some other people that I got to meet. Like, so we were saying, like, that happened, whatever, it was right at the end of 19 or early 20.
Yeah.
It was 10 minutes before COVID came to town.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like amazing that we met when we did, because who knows, like I mean, that was just very fortuitous timing to have connected before 2020, before COVID, before all the other events of 2020. And then you introduced us to Melanie.
Yep.
And she came and recorded some of the doc there.
The Can't Retire doc.
Yeah.
We did about 20 episodes at the Loop.
Yeah, is that right?
Yeah.
God, I can't believe that. Yeah, but that was fantastic because it was COVID. There was like nobody there. I was like, yeah, you guys here, help yourself. I have the run to the place.
Yeah, that was. We were really appreciative for that because it was just hard at that time to do that. It was social distancing and just trying to find a space. That was
And then the other one, Takira Carter came. She was part of that.
Yeah.
And then, like, not long after that, she brought Deontay Holden over because he was just starting a podcast. He was just getting out of school. He'd been playing at NC State and came. And so so this led to a number of important relationships to me, but none less important than ours.
Yeah.
And I would say that, like, the profound effect it's had on my life, just having somebody to be friends with that I don't know how we ever would have fallen in and had been friends before.
Right.
But it's been really important to me. It's been great. Having somebody younger, somebody from a different race, somebody from a different culture, all those important things. Yeah. And it opened my mind and my heart up to the idea that as people, I mean, everybody, and it's funny how politically right now everybody's like, oh, DEI. I want to be against DEI. Because and I don't understand why. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Why? It makes you smarter. Mm-hmm. You want to be smarter, you want to be dumber.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to be smarter, ask somebody that doesn't look like you, that's not your age, that didn't grow up where you grew up. I mean, and get a different perspective. I'll give a quick example was when I asked you a couple of weeks ago, we went to the ball game, and I was having an issue, and I was like, hey, let me run this by you, because I have my way of thinking it through, but I know what that is.
Yeah.
And you made some points and shared some ideas on how best to approach this subject with somebody, and I was like, oh, and that I wouldn't have thought of, that I would not have thought of.
Yeah.
So I do not understand this resistance that people want to have to DEI initiatives, and like, it's just more is better, mm-hmm. And we are better together.
Correct. I agree.
Yeah.
I totally
it's crazy.
Agree. Yeah. So let's talk about your career getting into the co-working space.
Oh boy.
How did it start? Where did the vision come from?
The best things, I feel like some of the best things come as a result of failure. Mm. And so in 2015, back up. My professional career prior to founding Loop Coworking, my professional career was all about leasing office space.
Okay.
And I did work primarily in DC. I had connections because of the company in New York and London. So I had great exposure nationally and not globally, but the UK in that business. I love that business.
Okay.
Almost from the minute I got into it. Helping somebody solve a problem.
Right.
So wonderful career in that business, big global company, small local entrepreneurial company, my own business eventually. And in 2015, I had a client, we were looking at space, and we just came to the conclusion that office space was really horrible. And the product is bad, the process is bad. I was not in a particularly enthusiastic space.
Okay.
And so I was pretty well determined in 2015 to be like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm tired of this. It's horrible. And so then this little building came available for sale, and a client decided not to buy it. And I said, do you mind if maybe I buy it?
Yeah.
I got an idea. And I told him what the idea was, and he's like, that sounds terrible. Yeah, go ahead. Do whatever you want to do.
Wow.
So we did. We bought it, and the idea was that we were going to strip this little small building, going to strip it down to its skin, put new HVAC in, because ductwork in office buildings is horrible stuff, and contains horrible stuff after 25 years. So we ripped everything out, skinned its skin, polished the floors, painted the ceilings, loft space. We created loft space in this 1986 built, very boring little building.
Okay.
And then we were reselling it instead of as just term office, come in, do a 5-year lease. We were kind of speccing it for the customer, fully furnished and ready. So we were selling was, we didn't know it then, we were selling space as a service. We know that now. What we were selling was work-ready space.
Okay.
Tell us what you need. We're going to make it ready to go. You just walk in, sit down with your computers.
Okay.
Solve the problem. Make it simple, solve the problem for the customer. And it worked like a champ.
Wow.
And I had been inspired in that process by, of all things, it started with adjustable height desks.
Uh-huh.
And I started reading about them, and I wanted one, and reading more, and learning more about how important it is to that getting up and down and not sitting all day. And so then this health and wellness piece started to enter my mind. I was like, well, what can we do to make space healthier and better for the occupants, more daylight, all those little, the air quality, all those little things. So that really inspired that building, and that then manifested into the Loop Coworking, which was the building where you came the first time, where the vision was we were going to have workspace with a gym and a cafe.
Yeah.
So you could work out, refuel, all in the same place. You don't have to leave. And office building gyms often look like glorified, polished up hotel gyms that are just the worst things ever. Like, I'm glad they're there. I'm glad people go in and get body moving. I'm glad for anybody to do anything that gets their heart rate going. But they're just not all that inspiring. Yeah. So we wanted to build a gym that looked like with my background, having done CrossFit for a long time, that looked like if a CrossFit person walked in and be like, oh yeah, okay, I see this. Yeah. Right? To put in a place an emphasis on the body's the machine. And these are all just things that you're going to use to tune the machine. And not, so I remember our architects were like, well, how many plugs are we going to need? I'm like, for what? Yeah. Like, for equipment. And I'm like, none of our equipment gets plugged into the wall.
Yeah, no, that's true.
No, we don't have any mirrors. No, there's no mirrors. There's no posing in here. You come in and do your work. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, strange. And then I took them to a CrossFit gym, and they're like, oh, I got it. Yeah. Yeah, so we launched it, as you know now, timing. We got substantial completion, furniture move-in, finals on all of our permits, everything else, first week of March.
Wow.
2020.
Yeah.
Lights on, lights off. Same day.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So what was your mindset? Like, that just happened? What was the shift? Or it was just we waited out and
Yeah, I mean, I think I heard somebody share the other day. I heard this guy sharing the other day about he's in recovery, and he's in the creative arts, and so he was talking about being in the theater business in New York, in recovery. COVID comes to town, and he said, you know, I had an odd calm about it.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, I had listened. I'm like, oh, yeah. He said, because I had become accustomed to living one day at a time,
Wow.
living in the moment.
Yeah.
And he said there was so much unknown and so much uncontrollable about this COVID situation. He said, but I felt bad. He said, he felt bad because he's like, I didn't have a lot of anxiety. I wasn't all like, what's going to happen? Running around. He's like, because, you know, I just do what I could do, take the precautions that I can take, wear the mask, clean the hands, keep the distancing, whatever the things were, whether they were right or wrong. Again, now we're all debating this stuff, like who knew at the time.
Yeah.
Because I just did the things, control what I could, let go of the rest. And I was like, oh, I totally identified with that. So while I was at moments panicked,
Yeah.
like, I wonder what the bank's going to want,
Yeah.
wonder what the partners are going to say. Like, but they're in the same boat. We're all in the same boat. And that was a theme that started was, for me, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And when that started to fall apart societally, that did depress me, and it did get me really, and I still do, have, I don't want to say anger,
Yeah.
but I get very agitated
Mm-hmm.
when that message comes across from somebody or something or whatever, that we're not all in this together. Because facts is we're all in this gig together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
You might not like Jewish people. You might not like Palestinian people. You might not like Ukrainian. I don't care what you like or don't like. Doesn't matter. We are in it together.
Yeah.
So, okay. So anyway, it was, so when it happened, I was like, it's going to be okay. And the thing that I felt best about, I knew, was our emphasis on health and wellness. Like, that was so much a part of what we were always thinking about.
Right.
That we're just going to continue to try to do the right thing here. And then just from a purely business perspective, other thing I knew is we're in Old Town Alexandria.
Yeah.
Small houses,
Mm-hmm.
thin walls.
Yeah.
People are going to be forced to work from home. They're not going to be able to work from home. Work from home, WFH, means work from home. No, it means work from here.
Mm-hmm.
Come over to my place to work.
Yeah.
And because of something our engineer and architect designers did, which was force me to use lots of mini split units to heat and air condition, because we got all these different buildings cobbled together and space, that we had like 100 times the fresh air exchange of any other building anywhere, which again mitigated the risk. If you were over in that room and were sneezing COVID, that room's not sharing air with that room or the gym, and we had these big doors and windows we could open up. So we had this really good, safe place for people. You get 2 adults and a child and a dog in a tiny little 900 square foot house. You can't all work from home. So we had lots of people who were coming in going, what are you doing here? And the really awkward thing was putting a grand opening banner up on the front in April of 20.
Yeah.
Like, that didn't seem like the right thing to do.
I see what you're saying.
So I just left the doors open and was there all the time. And
Yeah.
anytime somebody walked by, I looked in the window. I'm like, hey, you can come on in if you want. Come on in if you want with my mask on. Right?
Seriously. Yeah. Oh, man.
And thank God you and I had met,
Right.
because you guys were coming in. You were bringing life to the place. Other people were coming by. And seeing that the people were there. There
Right.
were cars in the parking lot. There's people in there. So that really, really helped.
Makes sense.
It also really helped us we're going to go back to the diversity thing for a minute.
Yeah.
So where the building is in Alexandria it's like an in-between, I hate saying transitional neighborhood,
Yeah.
but you could sort of say to the left of the building, predominantly white neighborhood, to the right of the building, predominantly black neighborhood.
You're right.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's a neighborhood I grew up in and was around, at both the left and the right side a lot. So that part to me would just seem natural. It didn't seem unusual. But here's what I would watch. I would sit there every day and I'd watch people walking by, look in the window. Mm-hmm. And the people that would walk by, the white couple that would walk by with a baby in the stroller, they'd look in the window, they'd be, interesting. The young black guy down the street would walk by, never even looked in the window. Fresh paint, new building, thing. And my immediate reaction was, those people naturally assume that might be a place for them, but he doesn't. So why is that? So my job is to make sure that guy sees people like him there. So he understands that this is a place for you as much as it is for anybody else.
Right.
Like that's part of that importance of, again, everybody wants to make it political about DEI. That's not the point. The point is making sure that you're not missing. I mean, let's just be really base about it for a minute. You're not missing a business opportunity. Mm-hmm. Like how,
Yeah.
There's plenty of other good reasons too, moral, ethical, human reasons, but I don't want somebody to walk by and think they're not eligible.
Yeah.
To come in and spend money.
Yeah.
To come in and appreciate, to come in and get what we have to offer.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. To feel like they kind of deserve or belong in that environment.
Especially in their neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. And that's a really interesting point. I think it is kind of a natural feeling, like you just feel like maybe I can afford that, or just walk past it. So I'm really appreciate you being thoughtful of that. You observe and realize, or notice it.
I mean, just stand out there on the street. So I'd make sure, no matter who it was, walk by, doors are open, like, hey, check it out, come on in, and we got lots of different people coming in that way, and feel really good about the community we developed around that asset and our other asset. We joke that we're a small town with a big heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what our properties are. We're not WeWork. We're not the biggest co-working places in America or North America or the world. We're not going to have a 5,000 person co-working facility. We're always going to have, smallish, small town, big heart. That's what we're going for.
Yeah. Yeah. And I personally, I've been to the WeWorks, and you feel the difference. It's a big difference. It's not a community feel. They try to have their events and stuff, and I'm not knocking it. Like it does what it needs to do, but the difference is there for sure.
No, and I love them. I love all the co-working. They all have a different character. They all fill a different need. Mm-hmm. Like we've got 5 or 6 different ones in Alexandria. I've been all of them, toured them with customers, and just as a worthy competitor. And I love them all. Yeah. And they're all a little different, and they all have a little different character. And so I've never been offended once when somebody's come and looked at ours and be like, I kind of like that one a little bit better. I'm like, okay, that's good. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Like, they're good.
Yeah.
If that suits what you need. Because I go back to why we exist. I love the why.
Yeah.
Become such a nut job for the why. The Loop Coworking exists to create places and spaces to inspire people to be at their natural best. Spaces and places to inspire people to be at their natural best. So anytime we wonder, should we do that? Should we do that? Whoever, on the team, we're talking, I'm like, does it go back? Does it feed our why?
Right.
Like, yeah, absolutely. Well, doesn't really do much to inspire people.
Yeah. Yeah, inspire is definitely the word. And I would say for me, when especially when I got the office at Tinton, it just felt like, definitely I felt like I felt more like I could believe in my entrepreneur ideas and, creativity, but it felt like a safe space as well.
Yeah.
Just like, if you didn't feel like going to a coffee shop, you can just go to the Loop and chill, or just get your work done. Because you go to the coffee shop and, out in the community, then you're forced to buy stuff, and it just felt like you could just be yourself. But I was talking about the gym at the Loop, or just you said it's more of like a CrossFit type environment. Let's talk about your CrossFit career and I've seen the work you've been doing with the youth and everything. So let's just talk about CrossFit.
Wow, I mean, so LB, my older daughter, who's the comedian, she's got some. She's been telling CrossFit jokes as part of her act since she was 13. So I take it with a big grain of salt. Like, oh, I know for some people it's triggering to hear that. Oh, CrossFit. Oh, it's one of those people. But it is so true. I mean, the punchline of her joke was, my dad does CrossFit, which you would know if you ever talk to him. Ever. Right? But it's true. I'm like, it's true. We're all like that. It's funny. It started with two friends, Chris and Andrea Smith. They were, along with another guy, Jerry Hill, they were running a CrossFit class in a Jungles gym in Eisenhower Avenue in Alexandria. There's a big Globo gym. They had a little room up in this loft area, and they had a rig and a rower and some stuff, and they were just starting to do it. And they were all really early adopters. Like, they were in with the founding people of CrossFit out in Santa Cruz, and all involved in one way or the other. And I went, I enjoyed it, and it crushed me. And I was like, I got to get in better shape to go do that. So I was like, I'll do that. And then eventually, Chris and Andrea wanted to open a gym. They talked to me because in the real estate business, we found their first gym, opened it up.
Nice.
And I was like, I should start going, but I got to get in better shape before I can go, right?
Yes.
My wife did not wait. She just started going. She met a friend, and he was gone from pudgy dad to like looking like an athlete. And she's like, what are you doing? He's like, I started doing CrossFit. She's like, huh. So she came home like that night and said, hey, I'm going to join. Bandit or whatever. Well, you don't have to worry about it beating you up in the locker room. Like, it was so much fun.
Yeah.
You know, it was just, and you didn't have to think about it. Like, oh, am I going to go, is it leg day? Is it arm day? Am I going to do this? I didn't have to think about it. I just go, show up. Somebody way smarter than me put a workout on the board.
Right.
And now I understand, like, all the thought and all the process that went into that. Like, the methodology behind it, I now understand. So that was the beginning, and it was great. And then, so when I had been at a gym in Texas, and they had the gym, the coffee shop, and a running store all under one roof.
Okay.
Not really necessarily by design. So that inspired me, and that's when I came back and I'd found this asset, and I'm like, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do the gym, because if I don't have to get my car, drive across town, I'm more likely to get my workout in. And if I can take 30, 40 minutes or an hour or whatever, go get my workout in, I can come back to my work, and my brain's gonna be popping. I could get some fuel in my body and not eat some crap out of the fridge or like that whole loop leads to happiness and productivity and usefulness. It's just so that it was a natural. So with the loop, and then somewhere in all that process, I wondered what it would take to qualify or to get past, get into the next stage of competition in my age group, which was going to be, I was about to be 55.
Yeah.
So I looked it up, and I found the guy who had won the CrossFit Games at 55. And at the time, it was this guy, Shannon Aiken, and he was working out at this gym in California, Diablo CrossFit in Walnut Creek, which I had been going to on the regular when I would go out to California to visit LB. I was like, I've been working. I might have seen the guy. So the next time out, I looked him up, found him, talked to him, and he was very encouraging. And he gave me some good notes. And then I came back and I consulted with some other people. I'm like, all right, so what do I have to do to get from here to there? And they were like, a lot. I'm still not there. I mean, that's the beauty of it, is like now this journey is like 5 years in.
Yeah.
It didn't happen in 2 years like I wanted it to.
Right.
And I got bummed about that, and I got a little dejected, and I was like, ugh. But I just dug back in, and as somebody pointed out, right, is it failure if I don't qualify for the CrossFit Games at 56 or 7?
Yeah.
If the result is I'm in the best physical condition of my life, and I'm staving off, some of the vagaries of aging, and my heart, all my health measures are better. I go to see my doctor. He's like, well, your goal of being younger next year has worked again. I'm like, all right then.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm still on that path. I still would like to get from one stage to the next stage. And if someday I make it and qualify to go to the games, great. That's for sure. But in the meantime, the training is fun again, and I'm having a great time with it. And as a part of that, totally by accident, I won a CrossFit Level 1 certification.
Congratulations.
And I was like, okay, so I did it.
Yeah.
And I highly recommend it for anybody, CrossFitter or not. You go to a CrossFit Level 1, things you'll learn about exercise, nutrition, and the methodology for dealing with some of the world's most vexing health problems is amazing.
Yeah.
It's a great education no matter what. Even if you don't want to CrossFit, even if you don't want to coach. I always thought the only people who needed a Level 1 are people that are going to coach or own a gym. But I was wrong about that.
Okay.
And then as a result of that, I bumped into this program that was started out in Ohio that takes kids that are in juvenile justice system, brings them to their gym, and they run this program with them. And when I heard about that, I was like, oh, shucks, now I'm inspired.
Yeah.
So I did the training for that, the coach-informed trauma training, which, by the way, every youth sports coach in America ought to get.
Okay.
Like, that coach-informed trauma training, it was one of the most remarkable things I've been exposed to.
Yeah.
And the more I've read about youth sports and some of the coaching, I'm like, oh, like everybody should be required to get that. State of Ohio is looking at making it a requirement to be a youth coach, that every league is going to have to start having somebody do it. So we'll see where that goes. But I went and did that, and then I came home and I went back to Trident to Chris and Andrea Smith, and because the level of quality at their gym is exceptional. And so, and Chris's background as a Navy SEAL, as a trainer, he's an educator by nature, wonderful coach, just all the way around great human being. I knew it was like, oh, this is a natural.
Yeah.
And so we clicked and it worked, and we just celebrated 100 last Wednesday.
Wow.
We had our 100th class. Yeah, which is a milestone.
Ooh, that's a big milestone.
Yeah. And you've been. You came and hang out. You come again.
Yeah, I know I need to come out.
Kids are so much fun.
They really are. And it's very humbling. It was just like, I just felt special. Like I know I need to come back, but you definitely feel like you want to come back. And I enjoyed the workout. That woke me up. It woke me up.
They have that way of doing that, right?
And one day I want to say, don't put your hands on your hips.
No hands on hips.
For any basketball players.
Right.
This is a habit.
Yeah. So it's going really well. I feel like we're having impact. We had an athlete who came this weekend.
Okay.
Who was one of the early athletes who was in lockup. Okay. And then he got discharged, and his family had moved out to Winchester, so he's been out there. So I've stayed in touch with him. And then this weekend he was back in Alexandria visiting, and he's like, hey, can I come to the gym? I'm like, well, of course.
Yeah.
It was just, I mean, Chris and I were like in the corner just bawling our eyes out because Vincent was talking about, he shared with the group that was in working out with the kids who are currently in the position that he was in 6 months ago. And Chris and I are in the corner just like, oh, I can't take it. This is too much. We're like, that's a win.
Is one of the kids, he's working now? Is it coach?
Yeah, no, he's finishing school out in Winchester. But he's continued to work out, and he's been on a great path. He looked like a different kid. He looked, he's healthy and fit, and he's diving deep into his music.
Okay.
He always loved making music. He started a program in the Juvenile Detention Center, writing and working on music with his group there. Right. Which the judge noted at his hearing, was like, tell me more. And yeah, so he's a super creative kid, and funny thing is, to this day, I still don't know what he did.
What do you mean?
Like, I don't know what he did to get there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he did something serious, right?
Yeah.
But we don't, early on, Chris is like, I wonder what? And then I was like, do we need to know? Like, I don't really need to know.
Right.
I don't need to know.
Yeah.
What am I just going to make some judgments based on that?
Right. Right.
Because they come in the door
Mm-hmm.
and we tell them, like, this is a sanctuary away from whatever is out there.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot out there for you all, man.
Yeah.
We get that, but not in here. So all we ask is that when you come in the door, you leave I can't outside. You bring I can, let's try, I want to, bring that stuff in. That's what we're going to do in here, because this is your safe place. This is your place to just let go, whatever's bringing you down that day. And it's a lot, man. They come in the door a lot of days, and it's I don't want to work.
Tough.
But hopefully part of what they're learning, I mean, through fitness, we're just teaching life skills.
Yeah.
Hopefully what they're learning is how to detach, healthy detachment from some things in life that are
I know you listen to a lot of podcasts.
yeah.
What podcast are you currently listening to, or what is your favorite podcast, or even book? If you're reading a new book currently, or just one of your favorite.
Yeah. So podcasts, I'm kind of all over the map. I use it for in the morning, like getting ready. I listen to the Journal, the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
And some days it's good and some days it's but it as a news source, as a news and sort of general education source. Axios, they used to have it every day. Now they have it once a week. Same thing, kind of as a news and education thing. Because I don't watch the regular news. I don't look at any news on TV because it ain't news. In fact, we had my younger daughter B. She had one of her roommate and I think also sorority sister at Tech came and stayed with us for part of the summer. She had an internship up here, so she stayed with us. Abby was great. And so in the evenings, I'd get home and it was something to eat. And I was like, Abby, if you want to watch, whatever, hang out with us or in your place, whatever you want to do. So she'd start hanging out with us in the evening, and we watch TMZ every night. And she's like, you watch TMZ? I'm like, this is my news. This is my evening news is TMZ. So I probably should say their podcast, but I don't listen to their podcast much. So anyway, I use those in the morning to kind of catch the news. And then, and then there's a whole variety of CrossFit podcasts that I'll put on in the morning when I'm doing mobility work or I'm doing some accessory work. And there's just there's 5 or 6 different people that are in that space, so some sort of CrossFit-y type of podcast during the sort of low-key gym Scotsman, very politically incorrect. Older book, humorist, like British humor. Recommended by a friend. It's okay. It's kind of funny.
Okay.
It's a story. It's just a story, right? And it's just a story. I don't have to think about it. Then I'm reading. I just picked up the biggest book. If I finish this book, it will by far be the biggest book I've ever read in my life.
Okay.
I don't even know how many pages it is, but it's like 2 inches.
Harry Potter
It's
book.
huge. It's all about General George Marshall.
Okay.
Really interesting.
Okay.
Interesting character. Interesting guy. You know, the Marshall Plan, Chief of Staff of the Army, World War II, like, you know, big stuff. So that's kind of cool. I'm reading that book and I'm enjoying that. And then there's always the sort of, I guess, self-improvement books.
Yeah.
Simon Sinek book, the Michael Easter. I read The Comfort Crisis. That's by far been one of the most impactful, useful books I've read in the last 10 years.
Comfort Crisis.
By Mike Easter. It is for everybody.
Okay.
It is really interesting. He does deep dives on things you wouldn't naturally think about or, you know, question. But his whole premise of the book is we become way too comfortable. We don't get uncomfortable much. We live in 68 to 72 degrees. We're not outside for a prolonged period of time in the cold or the heat. We don't carry heavy things anymore. Our ancestors had to pick things up and carry them 10 miles. They had to chase an animal down across the tundra and kill it with a spear. And the way they did that, I come to learn, it wasn't because they were so good at sneaking up on them. They wore them out. We have the capacity to run 100 miles slowly and steady. Animals don't. they fall over at 30 miles or whatever. That's how the hunter-gatherers hunted stuff. Yeah, but then they had to chop it up and carry it back to camp or to the village or the place.
Yeah.
And so we are also built to carry heavy stuff. So if you're going to go for a walk, put on a ruck. So all those things in that Comfort Crisis book, the misogis, the being outside in nature, the reason it's good for us to look at trees and things because of all the little pixel things and the effects it has on our brain. The value of, one of my favorite things, the value of boredom. Okay, so now I'm going to ask the question.
This is getting good.
When was the last time that you can remember being just really bored?
So, can I be completely honest?
Yes. I would expect nothing less.
Yesterday was pretty boring.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't really do much. I laid in bed. I did go lift. I lift some
Okay.
weights, but besides that, I didn't feel very productive.
But I think there's a difference between what boredom and not being productive. Did you look at your phone?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
So boredom is when we have nothing else. Like we don't have this, we don't have any, and you're just sitting there. So he writes about it in the book. He went on this trip to the Alaskan tundra, and he had to sit for 6 hours and wait for the plane to come back to pick him up because the plane wasn't big enough to carry everybody and everything. So it took some other people in gear, left him in gear, and he's sitting on this in the middle, literally the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
In the Alaskan tundra, praying a bear doesn't come up and eat him. And because he's like, I looked around, all of a sudden I realized there was a lot of bear poop. And I'm like, uh-oh. So he's like, I was just totally bored. I was reading the labels. I was just like nothing to do. And in the book, he goes into more detail about how beneficial that is for our creativity. Like what happens to our brain starts popping. So now, sometimes when I'm driving home long distance from somewhere, 2 or 3 hours, no radio, no podcasts, just turn it all off. And it's wild what happens. It is wild.
What happens? How do you feel? You just...
My brain I start thinking about stuff. I'm like, oh, you're just wandering. But I could feel the creativity coming. And so I used it on one recently. I was driving back from the Eastern Shore at about a 2.5 hour drive. And I got into the drive and I was tired. I'm like, oh, I'm falling asleep. Oh, I'm getting tired. And I'm like, oh, I turned off the radio. I turned off everything. And I'm like, I wonder if this boredom thing will keep me awake. Dude, I was I was 20 minutes in. I was wide awake.
Wow.
My mind was racing around. It was so cool.
Yeah. I totally can. I can relate to that, but I have to definitely try without the phone. I think that would be next level.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy. But you think about it. You wait in line. I'm waiting in line at Starbucks or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm doing this. I'm not bored. Never bored.
Right.
How can I get bored? I've got this thing. Huh, let me do a whatever. Let me look at email. Let me watch the Instagram. Let me check the YouTube. I mean, holy moly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great point. That's definitely something to work on. I got another question for you.
All right.
This is usually a tough question for some people, some not for others. But if you were to describe yourself in one word, what would it be and why?
So one word, and I'm gonna I'm gonna be aspirational about it. Hopeful.
I see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For myself, for others, for the people, like hopeful.
Yeah, I can see that. Definitely can see that. It's in your work, your character, how you carry yourself.
Yeah. You know, it's aspirational.
Yeah.
It's not always that way. I want to know what some other people might answer on that. That's what I really want to know. I got 5 people I want to ask that question of. Or I want you to ask, because if I'm there, they might say something different.
Nah, that's fair. I like that answer.
What about you?
Versatile.
Oh, yes.
I answered this like 2 years ago, and I was just like, that's just me.
Yes.
I got a lot going on.
That's for sure. And agile.
Yeah.
Agilely versatile, too.
Yeah.
Right?
Appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Chris, thank you so much.
Oh, my gosh.
Coming on the show.
Thank you for asking me. I was like, oh, I got goosebumps when you said Avery. I'm like, oh, man. Yeah, well, hell yeah, I'll do anything. I'll probably do about anything you ask me to do. I'll probably do about anything you ask me to do if it's legal, moral, and ethical. And I can't imagine it wouldn't be, because that's how you are.
Yeah.
I just can't tell you how much I appreciate our friendship, the opportunities to talk about things, sometimes uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, a really good friend of mine in 2020 when we were talking about, some of those tragic events.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hard.
That happened in 2020.
Yeah, and I remember calling this friend of mine. Sort of what was going on with that, and that was another time when that crack in the "we're all in this together" thing happened that really upset me. And but Marcus says to me, he goes, because this is not an uncomfortable conversation. You just like Marcus, make every conversation very, very comfortable for us to have. He said the uncomfortable conversation is the conversation I have to have and you have to have with people that look like us, that disagree with us. Those are the really uncomfortable conversations. And I was like, oh, shit. I didn't think about that. And he's like, yeah, that's, so I'm very grateful for that. I appreciate being able to have this conversation and all the others that we've had and yet to come.
Yeah. No, thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate our friendship. And it just means a lot to me. Like, I don't think you understand, like, you just always answer my text, call, like, that means a lot, Good. Like, not everybody's like that, so I appreciate you.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, guys, that's a wrap for this episode. Stay tuned for the next one.